Hey everybody, welcome back to Matt Kiteboarding Foil Fridays. I'm Tucker, and today I'm going to talk with you about Unifoil and their foil range, what that looks like, and how to choose one that's right for you, what each does, and yeah, some of the basics of their system here. So not super in-depth, but just a general overview of the Unifoil system. Unifoil is a brand we've had here at the shop for a long time, actually. Ever since they're producing their stuff in South Africa. And they've changed factories a few times since then. And now, relaunching the product with a higher quality, fresh designs, and really excellent, total package. One thing you get with Unifoil is kind of a no-compromise design. Cliff and his team, you can just look at the gear, look at the designs, and you can clearly see, they aren't building this to be the cheapest foil in the market. They aren't building this necessarily to be, the best beginner foil on the market. With Unifoil, what you get is uncompromising performance, design, quality, and you pay a little bit more for it, but that's the way it is in the world, I suppose. What does their lineup look like? Well, I've got two of them here. We've got the, we'll start with the Vyper, which is their kind of high-ish aspect foil, not super crazy racy high aspect, but surfy high aspect, I would call it. Very fast, glidey foil. It's very thin and efficient. It just is an absolute beast of a glider. So if you're looking for that gliding performance, speed range, if you're winging in mellow, just kind of rolling swell, if you're downwind supping or prone foiling, and you really want to just eke the most out of the waves, this foil is super efficient, and the usable range on it is just massive. I mean, it's got such great low speed lift and stall ability, but you can get it on a wing and just blast at race speeds as well. So the high end is really impressive. So you can cover a lot of ground with one foil through multiple wind ranges and wave ranges. So you really make a lot of, make the most of this size. And yeah, really stoked on this one for a lot of different purposes. Been riding the 170 for kind of performance, wave stuff. Riding the 210 for downwinding in small swell as well as light wind winging. Light wind winging, that 210 is an absolute beast. It's not a huge foil, it's like 1350 centimeters squared, but it is just so efficient, and when you get it up on foil, it's just no stopping it. Even if it goes to zero, like it just glides so long, you can pump it so easy, and it just keeps going, and little knee swacker swell, you can just glide around without even pumping. Pretty impressed by the Vyper and its ability in that way. If there's a downside to the Vyper, I would say it's its wingspan. It is a higher aspect foil, so you get wider wingspans just naturally. So if you're in a lot of breaking swell, doing really hard in the pocket maneuvers, and in critical turns, this might start to feel a little cumbersome, or you might have to size down to a smaller size that you really want to ride, and then your stall speed kind of rises. So then, okay, now I really can't hook that turn the way I want to because I got to keep my momentum. So there is some limiting in the turns on this foil, in those really critical turns, especially at full speed like you can have in a big wave situation in the pocket turns and stuff like that. So transitioning from that to the solution to that problem, the Vyper. So this is their medium aspect surf performance wing, designed in collaboration with Adam Bennett's. Might know him as Mr. Bennett's on Instagram. He is the one blowing everybody's mind in the waves, showing us all what's possible, making us all dream that we could ride that well. But we're all not professional surfers and perfect waves all the time. So if you want to ride like Adam, but don't have quite that ability and want to ride the same thing he's riding, that's the Vyper here. What you get here is a narrower wingspan because of the lower aspect ratio. It's a bit more blunted. So if you look at these, this is a 150 and a 170. Profiles are rather similar, and then you just kind of chop it off almost. The Vyper is a little thicker in the foil section here. so you get a little bit more lift from that, little higher, lower stall speed, and a little better ability to just quickly react. Has a little bit more aggressive lift, which can definitely help in those rolling pitching turns to really tighten the turning radius. So transitioning from the Hyper to the Vyper, what you get is a foil that's much more at home in the pocket, in and out of whitewater, really riding high performance turns in the critical section of the wave. So the Hyper is going to be more of a shoulder rider, cruiser, downwinder. The Vyper is your hardcore surf performance. If you want to go out there and shred like you're on a shortboard surfboard, that's the Vyper. So what do you sacrifice with the Vyper? It sounds awesome. Why wouldn't everybody just go with the Vyper? Well, it's got a narrower speed range because of the aspect ratio. It's also got a little less glide. Pumpability is really phenomenal for a foil this size and shape, but still not quite as good as the Hyper. So that's what you're going to get there. Now, there's another foil in the range. It's called the Progression foil. You're not seeing it here because it's so popular that we're sold out. We're waiting on stock, so hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have more very soon, because that has been a very popular wing. Maybe because it's the best one. I'm not sure I'm ready to say that, but it has been very popular, and it is their newest wing in the lineup, so that could definitely have something to do with that. The Progression is the highest aspect wing in the lineup. It's designed for surf performance and ease of use. So while these two might be a bit more high performance, high level, intermediate to pro level kind of a focus, not to say that a beginner intermediate couldn't grab a Hyper 210 because it's a very accessible foil, but the Progression is definitely aimed at accessible performance. So helping you go from intermediate to advanced level, or helping you go from beginner to intermediate level. And the way they do that is by having a foil that's just really easy and fluid to ride. Similar to the Hyper, only it's a little thicker and a little higher aspect, so you get some good stability, good glide, very easy foil to ride. But then they've mixed in some voodoo magic to make it still turn quite well, especially at kind of those slow to medium speeds, where the Vyper wants to go a little faster, the Hyper really wants to glide. The Progression is going to be more of that in-betweener. I would say the Progression, if it has a downside, when you do get to the higher end of its range, it does get a little bit more locked in and not as agile on the turns. Similar to the Hyper, at those high speeds, you're not going to be making critical turns, but that's why you have the Vyper. So if you're into winging, if you're into prone foiling, downwinding, these are some great choices. The Progression, if you're working on surf foiling and you want to learn to connect waves, it's a great choice for that. If you're riding smaller swell, great choice for that. If you're a new winger, jump on a big Progression, you're going to love that. It's really going to be, a good stepping stone to be a more advanced level rider. And then if you have already gone through all that and you're looking for, kind of the top tier performance in either, downwinding and swell gliding and connecting waves, or high end on the wave surf performance, you got the Hyper and the Vyper for that. So those are kind of the nuts and bolts of the range. They do have interchangeable fuselages here. So they all use the same fuselage piece. They're all carbon fiber. Goes in with 2 screws here to set that in. And this is, you can use the same one throughout the range. Their new stabilizers comes in a pack of 3. These aren't carbon, they're G10 fiberglass. So they have a little bit of flex in them, which gives you a really interesting feel in the turn. They have a little bit of a pump and bump kind of a feel, almost like bushings on a skateboard, where it gives you a little like something to push off of, and a little sort of dynamic turn that accelerates you in and out of turns and just adds a little extra flair. So I've been really stoked on those. They come in a 13 and a 14-inch set. Now, I said set, that's because they come in a pack of 3. So when you buy it complete, it's going to come with 3 stabilizers. And those are primarily aimed at how you balance your feet over the foil and how you transfer your energy into the foil. So if you're a surfer, you're familiar with this. You hear of back-footed surfers, front-footed surfers, etc. Like snowboarding, for instance, would be a front-footed turn. You pivot off of your front foot, use your back foot just to kind of direct what's happening on the front foot. Surfing, especially shortboard surfing, a lot of people are a back-footed surfer, where you're driving off your back foot, almost like a skateboard when you're using the kicktail. So that kind of a turn where you're really, using your back foot not only to direct but to push through the turn. That's kind of a back-footed thing. And then they have a neutral stabilizer that's sort of balanced between the two. Personally, I've been really liking the neutral. That's just how I like to ride, kind of balanced 50-50 over the foil. So I'm very athletic and agile over, that balance point. Other riders, coming from different backgrounds or just the way they like to ride, might be more back-footed or front-footed, depending on how they want to ride, but they give you all three, so you get to play with them. And that's a lot of fun. If, you damage one or, you lose it or something like that, you have another to replace it, which is awesome. It doesn't kill your session. It just gives you another flavor to try out. It's already included, so that's rad. And really the shape of those are all very similar. They just have different foil sections, that are gonna change the way those kind of balance over the foil. So experiment. I haven't really totally fleshed out all my ideas on that. I've ridden them all, and I tend to prefer the neutral stance, but can't wait to try it more, with proning and downwinding and kiting and winging. There's so many different aspects that maybe I'll like a different stabilizer for each one. But thus far, winging and prone foiling, I tend to really enjoy the neutral position. So that's a good place to start. A good starting point for everybody, whether you go one way or the other. You don't go totally off the deep end in the opposite direction. So stoked on those, really, amped on the total package. They come with really nice wing covers and a hardware set, titanium hardware set, which is Torx, so that's great. They also come with a set of stabilizer shims. So you see here this kind of black piece here, and they have, I think it's between 0 and 3 degrees on these. And I should mention that the stock setting is 0. If you bolt it on with 0, it's not like you're already at 2 degrees and you're adding a 0, so you're still at 2 degrees. If you put a 0 on 0, you're at 0. So that's going to be a pretty flat flying, hard to turn kind of a setup. I find myself really liking something between 1 and 2. 1.25 to 1.5 is probably my sweet spot. But just depending on how fast I'm going to be riding, the way I'm going to be riding, is going to change what shim I put on there. If I want a little bit more nimble, pitchy kind of turns, I'm going to put in a higher degree. If I want to ride a little bit more glidey and flat with a higher top speed, and I don't really care to have real tight, snappy turns, then I'm going to go with something a little lower shim, like a 1 degree. So yeah, it just gives you a lot of different flavors to adapt here. And again, it's built as a high-level foil. They're not trying to make things simple on anybody. They're just trying to make it the best possible foil they can and give you all of the nuts and bolts and bells and whistles and honey and jam and all the stuff. So it's really, a great value if you stand back and look at all the pieces. It's not like you're paying a super premium or anything like that. If you pieced and parted it all out for, other brand, you're going to pay a similar price. So they have a couple different mast options. They have an aluminum mast that's going to be the most affordable. It's a very stiff, tight aluminum mast, so really excellent. Not a lot of compromise there other than weight and a little bit of extra drag. It is a bit thicker in the foil section than their carbon masts. They have their traditional carbon mast, which is going to be the sleekest, the fastest, the most efficient option if you want that. And then they have their new Katana carbon mast, which is their stiffest, strongest, most direct carbon mast. I've been riding the aluminum and the Katana a lot. Obviously the Katana kind of gets the double thumbs up vote for me, but the aluminum is surprisingly great as well. at a much more affordable price if you are stressed on the budget. The Katana is definitely one as a heavier rider, especially if you're riding the bigger wings, is kind of a must-have. I'm 200 pounds, probably 220 with my cold water wetsuit gear on, and the Carbon series is just a bit too noodly and soft for me. As much as I love that efficiency and glide, it's just a bit too unstable and nervous feeling at my weight. The Katana is one of the best carbon masts I've ridden. Incredibly stiff, really sleek and fast and fun. It is a bit thicker than the Carbon series, but I'll take a little extra thickness in that mast for all that stability and just responsiveness. It's just so direct and intuitive and fun to ride. So that Katana mast really is the cream of the crop, if you ask me. So that's that. They all fit into the same fuselage system, so you can mix and match as you choose, and yeah, build your quiver to all your needs. Maybe buy all of the different wings and styles and just have the ultimate kit. If you're that guy, we'll set you up. But yeah, so that's the Unifoil line. You guys have any questions, comments, put them in the comments section below. I'll be happy to respond to you. You can always pick up the phone, call us at the shop, send an email, jump on our website live chat, and we'll get you set up. If we don't have something in stock like the Progression at this moment, hopefully we have good stock in a couple of weeks here, but we can give you an ETA, get you on a pre-order list so you can get one as soon as possible. All right, this has been Tucker with MattKiteboarding.com, and we'll see you next time.